Bearcat Bounce podcast. Back at it again. It's Monday, guys. It's Monday yet again. It comes the same time every week, and it's here yet again. And it's also a Monday that comes with two losses for the old basketball team. We're gonna have to talk about that, the tough times that we're currently facing. But it's also a Monday where we get to talk about something exciting, something enthusiastic, something engaging, where we get to rehash the past and look forward to the future of one of the most uplifting, one of the most unexpected, I guess you would say, sports from this past season that we were able to see evolve into what is going to be an exciting year two in the Big 12 and year two with our very special guest that is able to come on air and take everyone's minds off of basketball for a little bit. So without further ado, on this Monday, I'm going to bring in the guys, the crew, the squad. That's right. Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, Ryan Royer, and of course, the head coach of your Cincinnati Bearcat baseball team, Jordan Bishel. Gentlemen, how are we?
Good. I mean, as good as can be. I've been on the phone a lot today, making some calls and getting some opinions and, drumming up some topics of conversation for later in the show. But, I'm excited to have Coach Bishel on. He always he brings great energy, and he's in for year number 2, which I think everybody is excited for. So let's rock and roll.
We're going to bring some positive vibes tonight, right? We're going to get things going.
So we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
All positivity. That's the eternal optimist is back. I'm here. There's no reason to be down. We're happy. We're upbeat. Aaron, how are you down there, sir? How are we, buddy?
I'm good. I had daddy-daughter dance this weekend, so got to take my 2-year-old to a little daddy-daughter dance. So still riding high on that.
You've been known to cut the rug, right? Yeah.
Well, she was obsessed with the balloons. That was where we were at. Balloons and cookies.
Fair. I like balloons and cookies as well. That's
right.
Sounds about right.
Like a great day. Sounds like a great day.
Look, we had. I didn't expect it to last an hour, and we were there until we almost shut the thing down after 2. So we did good.
We're good. Very good. Royer, the Riz man himself. How are we, sir?
You can't call me that in front of Coach Bish. Come on. I'm doing well, man. Had a good weekend. Was up in Hocking Hills with some friends. Went on a nice little hike. Played some billiards. It was a good time. But, yeah, excited to distract ourselves from basketball pain and get on the hype train for the baseball team. So glad Coach is here to help distract us.
That was one small victory yesterday. Is as much as I was hoping to see fans streaming out a fifth third, we got out and got a scrimmage in, and because the score was a little bit lopsided, a handful of fans got to catch the last couple innings of our inner squad instead. So we got that reminder out that it's baseball season. So it's a silver lining, right? Not what we were hoping for, but we found a silver lining yesterday.
You could have had one of your big batted guys just hit a home run and maybe hit Chad upside the head to make him forget about the basketball game on his walkout.
There'll be better days ahead.
That's all we can look forward to. And you know what?
Why are you trying to hit me in the head with a baseball, Royer?
It's a big target.
I know you're getting swarmed with negativity. I'm sure you could use a brief moment of.
Hey, it's always I don't ask the tough questions in the press conferences, Royer. That's why things aren't going well.
You weren't the guy who said, "Are you ready for the job? Or do you think you can handle it?"
That was not me, no.
Not at all. Not at all. Well, you know what? Before we dive in too much further, if you're going to hop in the car and drive to Durham, North Carolina for next weekend's opening baseball trip to Duke, head over to Danco Transmission Auto Care first. Make sure you get your fixing in. Get a quick oil change, right, Coach? You don't want the car to break down on the way there.
You're saying you don't need that check engine light coming in somewhere in the mountains going through the Appalachians. Right. That would be a big problem. So we've seen deliverance. We want to stay away from that.
Yeah, keep that banjo just playing on the loudspeaker. Don't let it be seen in person. So yeah, head over to Danco Transmission Auto Care. Danco Joe will hook you up. $10 off of fixing, 10% off your next 10% off of fixing, $10 off your next oil change. That's quite the deal. Danco Transmission and Auto Care. So Coach, first off, man, how are you? What's the build-up been like for year two? Obviously, year one really got some fan engagement. Everyone locked in. It seemed like what you were able to get out of the program is what Bearcat fans love to see. So what has preparation for year two, and currently what is the team doing in prep for start this weekend?
Yeah, it's good. January was a challenge. Obviously, we got that monster snowstorm, and as beautiful as that building next to our field going in is and going to be, it's not real functional for indoor practice right now. So we thankfully had a few folks really help us out with some indoor facility stuff, but we missed quite a few reps and spent a little too much time in 12 passenger vans getting to places to get some work in. So January was not real smooth sailing, but about the middle of last week it broke and we got on our field a bunch. Saturday, Sunday, and today we played 4 or 5 innings a day. Got some live stuff in. We've been able to get a lot of defensive reps in. So, I think the biggest thing this time of year is just reminding our guys we still got to get better. They're so excited to play. I think as a spring sport, there's so much buildup throughout the year, right? It's I don't know if it makes the offseason longer, but you've got your team together for a long time. So by now they're just eager to play. But we're shaking off some rust yet and still learning some things. But it's been a really good fall, really good start to the winter here. A lot of new faces, 25 new guys on a 42-man roster. So that's been interesting in terms of getting those guys acclimated. But I think it's easier because with it being just a year two for us, last year was all new faces to us anyway, in a sense. And so we still had some stability in some pieces. And the guys that are back are experienced. They know what we expect. They've had good leadership. So all positive, and we get to see what it's all about in a week or so here.
Before we get completely into the new season, can we just rehash last year a little bit? 30 wins. That's the first time since 2019. You guys were picked preseason, Big 12. You were picked to finish last. Obviously, that's
it was tied for last, so we actually had a lot of respect there. Yeah, it wasn't dead last. So.
I digress. But ended up finishing 5th in some really magical moments down the final month of the season as well. Just rehash what year one was like. Did it exceed your expectations heading into it? Obviously, you guys found a lot of success, and it was very evident as the momentum really gained throughout the season.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really served us well is we tried not to set expectations in terms of results. We talked a lot about just working to get better every week, being good teammates, taking care of each other, buying into what we were doing, and so I think. Listen, if you'd have said before the year with that league and the depth it has and the talent it has, as you said, you're going to win 17 out of 30 ball games in league play and finish 5th. I think, yeah, for sure we would have taken it and exceeded expectations. But I think we did a nice job of saying, let's just see how much better we can get and see where that leaves us. And I think that served us really, really well. But yeah, looking back now, some pretty cool stuff. We took 2 out of 3 on our field against West Virginia. They played in a super regional, swept TCU, who's played in World Series after World Series. That senior day at our place against Oklahoma, Josh Hageman, the former walk-on senior with 0 career home runs. It's a grand slam with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the bottom of the 8th in a tie game. You can't really make that up. And then, probably the capstone of it is, Texas's last Big 12 baseball game. And this is a program with multiple national titles. Their last Big 12 baseball game shows up in Cincinnati, right? That in a Big 12 tournament in a big league ballpark. That stuff these guys will remember a long time, beating a blue blood program in a conference tournament and a big league ballpark. So there's not a lot of time really to sit around and pat ourselves on the back because the next year starts the day the season ends, but there's a lot of positive memories there for sure.
You mentioned the season ending and you had to get right into recruiting. You have a lot of spots that you had to fill. I think 11 additions, if I'm not mistaken, nearly half your roster at that point, right?
Yeah, well, we had 12 freshmen as it turns out, and we added about 12 transfers. So it is a really fresh look. But it's an exciting group. I expect there's 4 freshman pitchers that'll get innings for us this year. I would guess 2 or 3 of those guys will work into pretty key roles. We've got a catcher freshman who's in the mix to help us out quite a bit. A couple of other young guys that might get some at bats. But then that transfer class is really good. If you look at some of the websites that try to sort this out and play games with all their computer systems or however they type in the numbers, I think the net of it, who we lost versus who we brought in, to most people came in as a top 20 nationally type group. So that doesn't mean anything once the game started, except for the fact that we didn't lose many key guys to the portal, and we added some pretty talented, and those websites don't evaluate talent very well. They evaluate who's had success on the field. So we added some guys that have played good baseball. So that matters, I think.
So you had just a follow up, Brent.
Don't fight with each other here, guys. Come on.
You had your full season here, and now you hit the portal. What was what was it like hitting the portal this time around compared to last time? Now that you have that full season of Big 12 under your belt, your first full season here in Cincinnati under your belt, and just kind of weeding through what is an ever evolving thing that is the portal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say when I got the job last year, we just posted a help wanted sign, but there's a little piece of that. Like, we were pretty short on the roster, and obviously when it's late June, it's a little different. So that, there are 2 dynamics. Number one, we had our whole staff in place ready to work the day the portal opened, which saved us, 3-4 weeks of time getting going with that. But on top of it, we had a little bit more to sell. The year before we could sell a vision and a picture for it, and the fact we're going to be in a great league, where this year we could sell, hey, we're going to compete in this league and we're going to win in this league. And it showed up. Kellen O'Connor is a transfer from Cal State Bakersfield, who is just a highly successful left-handed pitcher who's gotten outs every year of his career at a high level. Adam Rakic from Central Michigan, obviously have a relationship there, but decided to spend his last year here after being a frontline starter for them. And so some key pieces like that, you can go deeper into that. Well, Jack Natilli's a catcher who started as a freshman at Rutgers, a Big Ten everyday starter in a quality program, but we added a lot of those pieces, and that gave us some depth this fall that we didn't have the previous year. We had some really good players last year, but probably didn't have the roster depth you need to really compete in this league. And that looked a lot different. Practices are more competitive. There's more guys fighting for key spots, and that makes a big difference.
With the portal itself, it seems like in college baseball in particular, it seems like the greatest chance for, a player transferring up to succeed than it is in other sports. So when it comes to you finding guys, from Newberry and Pitt Johnston and Saginaw Valley State, how are you finding and locating this talent? And then, is it past relationships? Is it through summer ball? Or is there some sort of talent evaluation that you're able to
yeah, I mean, if the name sounds cool, we throw a scholarship at it.
Right,
That's generally the
exactly.
process. And it's been successful to this point.
Yeah.
No, it is true. I think there's probably no other sport where there's that much upward movement with guys that are highly successful. And you're not just talking lower D1 transfers, Division II, Division III transfers. I think the reason for that, it's a way harder sport to recruit. Number one, if you just look at our staff to student athlete ratio, it's not quite as high. We can't get out and scour quite as much as, maybe basketball, who only has to add a couple of guys every year. But on top of that, if I want to evaluate a basketball player, if you send me video, I can watch 10 games in a half a day if I want to by cutting up film. It's really hard to watch film of travel ball, right? Can a third baseman play? And so you get a lot more misses in a sense. You get guys that just flew under the radar for whatever reason, because it's just harder to get that exposure. It's harder to get those eyes over and over and over again. And I think on top of it, if you look at the NBA, there's guys that are jumping in at 20, 21 years old that are highly successful. You don't see that in baseball much because there's such a mental component. There's such a hand-eye skill-based component. It's just a later developing sport. A lot of baseball superstars don't hit that until they're 26, 27, 28 years old. And so because of that, sometimes those 21 and 22-year-olds in college that were just okay players earlier have developed. Brandon Shire is a great example, Saginaw Valley State, to answer your question on how do we find him. He wanted to go to Central Michigan. His dad had a relationship there, came to one of our camps my first year on the job there, and he just was not ready to play at the mid-major Division I level. So he goes to the Division II level, plays some early, gets better. By his senior year, he's one of the best Division II players in the country, pounding the strike zone at 91 miles an hour, good two-way player that can defend and hit and do some things. And just over the course of 5 years, he grew himself from a very, very fringy Division I player to no doubt a guy that's going to help us in the Big 12 this year. So, I mean, that one, for example, that is a previous relationship. We knew exactly who he was. He had followed our program. He knew me a little bit. Rodney Schultz from Pitt Johnstown, same thing. Summer baseball, Coach Sheriff, our pitching coach years ago, had spent some time around him and just kind of tracked him. Numbers weren't great, but knew the kid, knew the ability, knew some of the things we could do to get him better. And so that was a fit. Donovan Ford, the Newberry kid, flip side, he's a kid we knew nothing about on the surface, except the name popped in the portal and you saw him hitting 400 every year and you thought it's pretty good. So let's go get that guy.
Is that like the timeline for development? Is that why you see so many more jumps? Like JUCO is such a huge thing in baseball. I know some of that is draft timeline related and whatnot, but we're seeing a lot of Division II guys make that jump. Like, is that why there is such a wide discrepancy? And like,
I think so, 100%. I think again, it's a combination. There's some guys that slip through the cracks just because not as many guys get eyes on them, and then there's this. It's just a later developing. If I go back to Central Michigan, Jacob Marcy and Andrew Taylor one summer are as 21-year-olds, second and sixth round draft picks who. They each had 2 MAC options coming out of high school. And so I can sit here and say I saw that there was a second round draft pick. And no, we saw some talent and then we helped them grow. But they grew as 19, 20, 21-year-olds. They look drastically different as players than they did as 16, 17-year-olds. And I think it's a combination. It's hard. It's just a harder sport to track kids day in and day out. So there's going to be more kids that get overlooked that are quality. And then you can just – our juniors are so much better than our freshmen to start out, generally speaking. You can make so much progress, and not that you can't in other sports, but it's just a huge development sport, I think.
So portal season happens before the MLB draft, right? So with that timeline, is it difficult to kind of navigate the portal, not knowing who's going to get drafted? And
it's I know other sports have their issues, but it's a bit of a dumpster fire, to be really, really honest. The draft used to be in June. The downside to that was guys were getting drafted as they were playing in the NCAA postseason. That's really not why they moved it. Ultimately, Major League Baseball wanted to try to make it an event, so they tied into the All-Star game now, which has some merit, but the timing of it is, from a college baseball perspective, quite frankly, awful, because these guys' seasons end and then everybody just sits in limbo for a month. And obviously it hurts us we don't know what we need to do, who we need to replace, who we need to bring in, but these kids don't know either. In mid-July, am I going back to school? Am I going to pro ball? Like, it would make a lot more sense to get that thing done in June. And I think everybody agrees with that except Mr. Manfred, who does a great job, but that's one decision that everybody's kind of throwing their hands like, but you can't really extend the portal much later because you don't want guys making decisions in mid-August. That's not a solution either. So it's a challenge, but we can all complain all night and it's not going to change. Just deal with it. So
back to the freshmen. You mentioned, obviously some freshman pitchers will get their chance to throw some innings this year. What are some names as far as position players that might be able to break through a very upperclassman led lineup?
Yeah, the position player side is probably going to see the field a little bit less, at least early. But I thought Ryan Tyransky, who's a first baseman, had a really, really good fall for us. His challenge is he's got Tommy over there, Tommy O'Connor, and we also have a transfer, Dawson Hokoff, who was a 4-hitter at Lindenwood at the D1 level last year. So he's got 2 seniors who are legit pro prospects. And so, but I think he'll find his way on the field some. One of our 2 fall scrimmages when we went to Indiana, he hit 2 home runs in the game he played. So he did some good things. I think Quentin Coates is a kid who is really, really going to hit and be a pro player. I think we're still figuring out where he's going to defend and help us there. And again, like you said, it's a pretty veteran group, but I think he'll find his way on the field somewhere because he's that good with the bat. Kind of one of those scary pop guys. I think Parker McDaniels finds his way into the lineup once in a while as a catcher. He's kind of battling for that second spot. See him a little bit, kid from this area, but those are the guys that probably jump out the most.
Okay.
Did you know that football also has a transfer from Lindenwood?
I didn't know that. Our guy kind of looks like he could play football. He's about 230 pounds.
Just crazy to me that both baseball and football have kids transferring in from Lindenwood. Little
Yeah, they were even D1 a handful of years ago. They just joined a few years ago.
Coach, I'm about 230 pounds, and that does not qualify you as somebody that looks like they can play football alone. You need other things.
Present company excluded.
Don't look at me either. I'm not a good example myself.
Goodness gracious.
You're a great example, Ryan. You're a stud. I assume Carson Marsh will probably have the closer role this season.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of call it leverage, guys. You know, I've never been big on one guy to finish games because if you play well enough, you're going to be ahead a lot. And in today's game, it gets tough to throw guys 2-3 days in a row. They can go a couple days in a row, but it's just a little different mold. But he's one of those guys that we're comfortable giving the ball to in the 9th inning. Christian Mitchell had 6 saves last year. He doesn't profile quite as much in terms of pure upside, but we know he's going to put the ball in the strike zone every time he takes the mound. So those 2, and then I think Brandon Shire is the other one towards the back of the bullpen, the transfer from Saginaw. That I think game on the line, 8th, 9th inning. Those are the 3 guys you'll see early on.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And
last year you mentioned wanting to play fast. When we had you on, you mentioned that we didn't have a ton of pop, and so you weren't expecting guys to necessarily go deep all season. So you wanted to play baseball the right way. You wanted to do everything fast. You wanted to play the field the right way. What are your focuses this season as you go into your second year?
You know, I don't think the style changes. You know, we teach an offense that should allow us to hit the ball in the gaps and out of the park. And you saw it last year. Josh Cross had 19 home runs for us. Carrington, Tommy had double digits. That's a factor for us. It's, you know, Coach Winsky was my college coach and now a really key assistant for us. Every time we hit a 3-run homer, because he does all our base running, our bunting, we'll hit a 3-run homer. He'll get in the dugout and say, you know, that's a lot easier than stealing bases. We should do that more often. So certainly a part of the game, but we want to keep playing fast. We want to keep putting pressure on. Last year, I'd have to look back at the numbers now. I haven't looked at it in a bit, but of all the Power 5 teams, I want to say we were second in that group in stolen bases. And we did it at like an 87% success rate, which is incredibly high. I mean, most people will tell you if you're 80%, you're feeling good. And so we were pushing 90. So that was top 5 for sure. And then we had 3 more bunt hits than any other team at the Power 5 level. So if you look to kind of combine those, the base running, bunting, and when we bunt, like the goal is not to get a guy from first to second. The goal is to get a guy from home to first. Like we want to force pressure. We want to get base hits. So to lead, you know, the country at the highest level and those things, I think you could argue we had possibly the fastest offense in the country in terms of how we played that style. But you got to balance that with hitting the baseball too. We still haven't learned how to steal first base. That's really, really tough. So you better be able to hit and walk your way over there. We've stolen home a couple of times, but that's a tough one too. So you got to drive them in too. So that balance matters. But what you find is when you can put that pressure on with just playing fast and putting pressure on, hitting becomes easier. You know, you don't have to hit quite as many doubles if you can steal the next one. You don't need to hit in the gap as much as if you get a drag bunt for a base hit. Pitchers all of a sudden move their focus. Infielders are pinching the middle of the diamond more, and there's more holes to hit through. Like it makes a hitter's job easier when the concern is all the crap that's going on around them.
You preached the 3 E's when you were hired. Is that still a pillar of the program, or do you kind of feel like that side of the culture aspect of things is starting to supplant itself here in year 2?
That's never going anywhere. If it goes somewhere, so does the coach too. If I don't have enough life to preach energy, enthusiasm, and excitement, there's going to be somebody else in that dugout. That's what this, to me, it needs to all be. I mean, it's college sports, guy. Like, how cool is this? And I thought it was awesome when I was, playing in the dandelion infested St. Norbert College infield with the orange snow fence. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. These guys are getting to play in the Big 12 in these stadiums with their best friends and all the support. They get all the food. And I mean, that's the least we should ask, is to have fun doing it. And so now and I think it helps our guys play loose. It helps keep, I mean, again, and I'm not pointing any fingers or poking at any other sports, but I think what we see is guys putting a lot of pressure on themselves right now. And that leads to a lot of negative things at times. And I think anything we can do to keep that environment in a spot where they are enjoying themselves and doing it with a high level of energy, it helps take that focus off results. And it's, to me, it's fun to watch. I mean, I don't know. I think baseball can be awfully boring if everybody's sitting back and just waiting for the next cool thing to happen, because we don't hit enough home runs to get the fans into it 7-8 times a game that way. We got to do other things to generate that energy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Taylor Sheriff was your only your only major coaching staff update on this team. And is he bringing anything different to the locker room than what you had last season?
Yeah. So what was great is, we've had Taylor here since last year. He started out as a volunteer when I got the job in a pitching development spot. We actually got him to a full-time role already a year ago now, last January. And so he was working with Coach Reynolds very, very directly. And quite, as you guys know, going into this time last year, the pitching staff there were a lot of questions there. We lacked experience, we lacked depth, and he was a huge part of helping some of these guys grow. He was diving in a lot with the recruiting to help Josh Reynolds and help Kyle Petteruto. So he was so involved without being on the coaching staff last year that it was a really, really easy transition. We lost a lot when we lost Coach Reynolds to Tennessee. There's a reason the national champions hired him. He brought a lot of experience, some great perspective, but it was so fortunate that we had, to me, two outstanding pitching coaches on our staff. And so when we lost Josh, we were just, able next man up type mentality, no different than players. And he's young, he's energetic, he works like a dog. Our players relate to him, he relates to them. He's a great fit. And what it did, and again, we miss Josh, we miss Coach Reynolds, but from there, it opened up a spot. We hired Chris Krupline, who was a head Division III coach for a number of years. I've known him for about 20 years. A guy that's been a highly successful head coach who understands the things I value and the things our program values. And so he was a pitching coach before he was a head coach. So we get a guy to slide in who's been there, done that, and has been a huge asset. And then actually the other cool piece on the pitching side is Seth Logue's been helping out a little bit on a volunteer basis. And Seth pitched for us last year after transferring from Kentucky. And I think he brings a ton of perspective to these young guys about, he grew a lot last year and he had a really good experience. And I think anytime a guy Kentucky was in the World Series last year, and I don't think he regretted for a minute being here instead of being at Kentucky. So for a young guy to hear that, right? Like, this is a great place for you to be. This is a great place for you to grow and show some of his experience. We've kind of revamped that pitching side into almost a deeper side that's really helping these guys grow.
You had Bishop Ball at Bucketheads back in September. It feels like it was a while ago, but I had a buddy who attended, said it was an awesome atmosphere. It was a good turnout, this, that, and the other. Then, of course, the first pitch banquet was this past Saturday, I believe. How are those events going? Do you feel the excitement building?
Yeah, it is. It's growing. The first pitch banquet on Saturday was awesome. Last year we had about 75 people there. This year we probably had about 140, so almost doubled it. Brent Suter came out to speak, did a great job. John Cunningham was there and talked to the group and did an outstanding job. I gave people a reason to run to the bar and grab some drinks and drown me out for a little while. But there was a ton of energy in that place. There were people we've never seen their names on ticket lists or things like that. So you can feel it growing a little bit. Mio's Pizza is going to show the games down in Clifton on a regular basis. People are asking for that. Bucketheads is doing the same. People want the audio, and we're a long ways from where we want to get over over the course of time here, but we have made so many big strides. A, just internally with playing good baseball, but B, I think getting people excited about it. And now it's our job to make sure those people that are excited get to see that again, that high energy team again this year.
That's a Bearcat Journal sponsor. Neo's Pizza.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. Exactly.
Appreciate you, Coach. Thanks. That's good stuff.
Can you get Diet Mountain Dew to sponsor you and have them send me about a 12-pack a day? That would be helpful as well.
I'll see what I can do.
Cincinnati's a Pepsi school, and I've just been banging this for 2 years now. And I mean, all the stuff we have, you'd think they could sneak a couple cases of Diet Mountain Dew in.
We get Cincy Light.
That one of those is going to put me to sleep. One of them's going to keep me awake.
I was going to say that's the opposite of that we're going for here. But yeah. So what are you? Do you hate Skyline now that they don't have the Mountain Dew available for you?
My kids absolutely love Skyline, and so we go there probably like every 2 or 3 weeks. And every time they ask what I want to drink, and I ask for a Diet Mountain Dew, and they look at me like I have 3 heads, and I say, "What? You changed it?" And I act all upset. I know what's gone, but I still ask for it every time.
Gotta keep preaching it.
Yeah, maybe I can drive it enough. If I consume enough of that, maybe I alone can switch the entire Skyline brand back to Pepsi.
There was another brand in town that is unfortunately now pretty much gone, but they switched, and the public outcry was so great that eventually they had to switch back. They went.
Well, I can keep trying,
and they had to go back to Coke because
how many people watch this? Like 800,000-900,000, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Every one of those people gets the Skyline tonight. I mean, we could get this fixed by next week, which would help me a lot.
You're about 1 million off on the viewers, but yeah, we're up there, pretty close to your numbers.
Well, it probably was that high until you put me on, and now it's about 17 people. But
it works. Obviously, a road trip to Duke that I kind of alluded to earlier starts off the season. February 14th is game 1, a 3-game trip there. What are you wanting to see just this early in the season against a high-level ACC program?
Yeah, I always challenge our guys the first week or so that our goal really has to be when the game ends, can we look back and did we try to execute the things we hang our hat on? So did we try to put pressure you with the bunt game? Did we run the bases well? Did we have good hitting approach? Did we attack the strike zone? You know, a lot of weird things happen early in seasons. It's tough to know what to expect. Our lineup will change a lot over the course of 56 games. You know, we don't play outside competition. Before the first game, we scrimmaged 15 innings. So we don't know what the end result's going to be. But if I see our guys committed to the things we preach, history says that that's going to lead to wins eventually. And so that's really what we'll look at is, did we attack the things we preach? And if we did, I think the results will be there. I think we'll learn. I mean, that weekend will obviously give us a real feel of starting point, but I think we'll actually learn a lot more on that second trip. We go to the West Coast. We play UNLV 4 times. We play UC San Diego 4 times, and they may not be big name opponents, but they're pretty quality mid-major programs. And we're on the road 10 days, and you play these 4-game series where you have to engage your full pitching staff. You start to sort out some lineups, and so I think that 8-game swing over the course of 10 days that'll give us maybe a little more feedback about what our team's looking at, because you get to just play a lot more and you're a little more settled and you don't have the nerves of opening day and those kind of things. So I think that'll be a great trip for us. They're crappy destinations. I mean, Vegas and San Diego, they're kind of dumps. You're not going to get any sun. You're going to get crappy weather. There's nothing to do. But from a baseball standpoint, I think it'll be a pretty good experience.
Yeah, I've never had a good time in San Diego or Vegas. That's very true. Very true.
You got a spot on the plane? I'll come.
Yeah,
I'm good.
You don't think we're driving out there? Low budget operation.
I mean, I've done it. I drove to LA by myself.
We are driving from Vegas to San Diego, but if our guys can't handle that so that they can stay on the West Coast for 10 days, I think they'll be just fine.
I hate to rehash and go back to Skyline, but have you guys tried that greater Skyline?
I have, and I'm scared of that. It just something.
Here's the thing that's important to remember. It's not Grader's collaboration with Skyline Chili. It's Grader's collaboration with the spices that are used to make the chili.
Right.
So from what I've heard, it apparently tastes a lot like pumpkin pie because of the cinnamon.
I'd rather it taste like chili, to be quite frank. But
Like who decided it's okay to eat pumpkin? I mean, seriously.
that's
a whole different story.
Well, that's why it tastes like cinnamon.
Graders, it's the Boldly Bearcat every time for me, every single time. And it was great when Luke, one of my 7-year-olds, he got his tonsils out recently, and Coach Winsky's wife Betsy kept bringing him these pints of Boldly Bearcat, and I was convincing him I needed to eat most of it. It was great, except for that whole 230-pound thing. But
yeah, you look like a football player once you reach that.
Exactly.
That number. Obviously, Chad, any more questions to pepper in about the old baseball?
Just year 2 in a conference from a coaching standpoint. Do you feel like it advantageous because now you're seeing everybody for the second time? Is there some disadvantages where you're not surprising people this year, where you're not the new kid on the block anymore? Just take us through that from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, there is kind of a double-edged sword there. It kind of can cut both ways because, I mean, the positive, listen, a year ago, if we had gone to a top 15 opponent opening weekend, we certainly would have wanted to win and thought we could win, but I don't know that there would have been a deep-seated belief that we're going to go down and have success against that kind of a team. And after the schedule we played last year and having success in a lot of those games, I mean, we'll get on the bus next week expecting to go down there and have success. And that's a good thing, right? You got to get a position where you're really expecting to do things the right way and win and do those things. But certainly, I mean, there certainly were a few games last year where I think people didn't know what they were going to get from us. And I don't think coaches necessarily took us lightly, but kids are kids. Oklahoma State or TCU, they're going to be more excited to play each other than they are going to be to fly to Cincinnati in early April. And as you build success, you hopefully become one of those programs that people take pretty darn seriously. But yeah, they're going to prepare maybe just a tiny bit better, those kind of things. But I think the biggest challenge actually right now in year 2 is we need our guys to stay with the process and not get caught up in results, because ultimately the results were probably better than what our guys expected last year. To make that happen again, like our guys, I think right now, when they talk to each other, think we have a chance to win the league. And that's a good thing. I want them to feel that way. But it also means there's a bigger range for room for disappointment and panic and pressing and doing those things. And so in a sense, we're in the path and in the direction we want. We want to have to handle it success and not failure. But now when we fail, it's a little more unexpected. And how do we handle that? That's probably our biggest challenge. Is we've got a group of guys that if we finish 5th in the league this year, I think they'll be a little disappointed, when really finishing 5th out of 14 in this league means you're one of the best 30 or 40 teams in the country. Like, that's pretty dang good. But the expectations for them have changed. That's a positive overall, but we've got to handle it because you're going to have a weekend where it doesn't go well. And if you look at the other teams, like, there's a lot of good players, a lot of good teams. And so that's probably our biggest challenge. As a whole, we're in a lot better spot than we were a year ago at this time. But there's some pitfalls and some challenges that we're going to have to handle too.
Have there been any coaches that you've become fast friends with in the building?
I'm so likable that it's kind of an endless line of
they just are at your door constantly. Yeah.
Now, I mean, you guys have had Doug on a fair amount. I think we really see program building in a similar way. He does a great job with the golf team. We've got a really good relationship, but actually the building it's been really, really good. It's been cool. Coaches interact really regularly. I've come from places that for whatever reason, sometimes we're in different buildings, whatever, maybe there wasn't always interaction on that. And I've heard a little bit, the higher the level, you don't see the other coaches. And I don't know if it's Lindner and the setup, but I see Coach Sat regularly. I see Wes regularly. I see Katrina regularly and all of the other coaches, but it's a cool dynamic in there. And to me, that's, we were talking before the show about how it just kills me to see some of these teams struggle, because I know what they're putting into it. And I get why fans are frustrated, but they're they're sold out for their programs, and they're good human beings, good people. So I'm so likable that everybody's my friend. But no, it's a really good group of people that pretends to like me and puts up with me, and that alone should get them all a gold star.
In my mind, you and Coach Veit would be buddies.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's not on the job 10 days, and I'm in the office some Saturday morning. I guess it would have been not too far from this time last year. And he comes, knocks on my door and comes, introduces himself, says hi. I was like, dude, you got more things to worry about than the baseball coach. But he took time out of his day to come meet me when he was new to, he's awesome. He's great.
You guys can share a pint of Boldly Bearcat. Maybe a pot
Yeah,
of coffee.
I don't usually share those pints. Those are just for me.
Maybe a pot of coffee.
Half gallon. I don't drink coffee. I drink Diet Mountain Dew.
When it's available.
You got to buy your own? Like, are you going to Costco and stocking up yourself?
You want the real story here?
Sure.
So, inflation's hit everybody a little bit, right? And I drink a lot of this stuff. So on most days now, you're going to catch me with a 2-liter bottle of Diet Mountain Lightning that I drink because it's a lot cheaper than the Diet Mountain Dew. Now, if I could get the Diet Mountain Dew sponsorship, they're losing, think of the marketing they're losing. If somebody catches me with, we're playing in the World Series in a few months, and, it's a big battle between us and Tennessee, and they scan to the Diet Mountain Lightning, and Walmart's selling off the shelves, and all because they couldn't supply a few 2-liter. Terrible business.
Look, there's got to be NIL for coaches.
I've been saying it. You're barking up the wrong tree here.
We got to get Coach Bishop with Eddie.
Believe it or not, I don't think the number one thing on John Cunningham's priority list today is how do I find Coach Bishop a few more Diet Mountain Dews. That probably like third on his to-do list tomorrow instead of first.
Yeah, but Eddie's got some free time.
Yeah, I'll keep. You guys, I know the world is watching. Somebody's going to come through out of this show by midnight tonight. There'll be 10 cases on the way to my office.
Did you know Eddie was a power lifter?
I would not have guessed that.
He was that was his thing before getting into the NIL world.
Olympic power lifter.
You could have given me many guesses, and I would not have gotten it.
Yeah, he's not 230, but I can see it now. Energy, excitement, enthusiasm. Diet Mountain Dew.
Do the Dew. Yeah.
Do the Dew.
If it's good, if Dale Earnhardt was good enough for it, why wouldn't I be? That's
amen. Amen.
We're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on it for you. Just not through Skyline.
Yeah. Well, if they give me the Boldly, that's Graders. I don't even know my restaurant. Well, Graders is making ice cream. See what happens now? You get this cross-pollination of chili and ice cream, and I don't even know who makes Boldly Bearcat anymore at 8:45 at night. That's where we get.
There's too much Duke going through your brain.
There is. And at some point I've actually got to make a lineup and decide who's pitching. And when you're bogged down by thoughts like this, it's pretty difficult.
Coach, get some sleep.
I'm going to try. I appreciate you guys having me on. Anybody watching, we hope to see you at the ballpark. And it's a really exciting time. I know it's been challenging year in some areas, but Cincinnati athletics is going to be in a really good spot if people just stick with them. And in the meantime, get a little reprieve this spring, get out and see us play, and we'll make you excited to watch us.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this year.
Thanks.
That's our guy. That's our guy. He's one of
us. That was a crazy exit angle.
Nah, I love Coach Bishop. He's the man.
Yeah. He's got a great personality.
Oh, phenomenal
He's got a fun vibe to him.
He's got that's one-liners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he's like down in the dugout, but baseball's like staying cool, calm, and collected down there. You have a coach that kind of has a good energy to him to help you stick in your into your own confidence, and not because I'm sure there's baseball coaches that can be a little overbearing, and sometimes that doesn't click really well with guys when it comes to hitting and stuff. But if he's got that kind of energy down there, he's definitely keeping the guys relaxed. That we'll see how the hitting fares this year.
Yeah, I mean they brought some daggone excitement last year. I tell you what, there was the way that the entire fan base kind of just was like, oh wait, baseball's good, and then all of a sudden everyone just hops on, and I hate to say hops on the bandwagon, but I mean he really turned everything upside down from what the preseason expectations were from the whoever votes on those Big 12 rankings. But I mean, this year you look at the roster, they've got a good team. And then obviously if some of these newcomers step up and fill their roles, they can definitely make some noise. So it's going to be exciting to head out and see some baseball games. Gotta keep getting Coach back on the pod, but I don't know. It's fun to talk about something happy and upbeat because I know what the next hour is going to entail. So, but no, Coach.
Hour.
Yeah.
We don't have to
Well, I agree.
Let's not get carried away.
We want to timestamp, and then we'll hop in the old new riffing with my boy, the Rizzler.
Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. They serve over 150 restaurants with weekly low minimum next day deliveries. They provide a wide range of food service products, to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom, baby.
There we go. All right. Let's see if we.
Whoa! Hold on.
Like,
sorry.
we
Gotta read.
We got to pay the piper, man. We got to pay the piper.
My bad.
Much like Ryan Royer, New Riff is fiercely independent and unabashedly innovative. They produce award-winning bourbon, rye whiskey, and gin at their distillery in Newport, Kentucky. The Aquafire Tasting Room, located on the third floor of the distillery, features cocktails, flights, and pours of New Riff's entire line of spirits, including rare, limited edition, and distillery-exclusive releases. Bearcat Journal listeners can save 50% on distillery tours when you use the code Bearcats24. For more information or to book a tour, visit newriffdistilling.com.
There we go. All right, let's see if we can get some positivity. What is there any bit of positive thing you've seen over the past, I don't know, 3 to 4 games that you say, is there anything you can be happy about at all?
Nope.
A certain player, a certain schematic, a certain press conference.
Nope. Next question.
The basketball team.
Good try. Good try.
We won rebounding yesterday, and Rayvon Griffith.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, the whole Rayvon thing, man. I tell you what, it's an interesting dynamic to throw into the scenario where all season just wondering when, and then all of a sudden he comes out and he looks pretty doggone good. I don't know. It's I guess Rayvon would be the answer because rebounding. I watched a couple of just rewatching the highlights. Rebounding wasn't that great in all honesty, but they still won the battle, I guess.
That was ended up with more.
Yeah. Let's see here. Positivity. Yeah. Rayvon looked pretty good. There you go.
And I think seeing Rayvon do what he did almost makes it kind of worse in some ways, because you have a guy who he was just so noticeable, just his energy and his effort. And it's just like you think that the guys that have been out there and they're the ones getting told, hey, you're not doing it. Like you need to go and like change what you're doing. And we see no real bit of change from anyone, and just some guy, a young guy who's just given an opportunity, just kind of goes out and just exposes. It was just night and day when you watch the game. Like him, the energy he was playing with, and just kind of just running all over the floor, everywhere he's going, just reckless abandon, trying to get any ball, or just the way he was carrying himself on help side defense. And then the passion he had when he made a shot, like the passion he had versus like Dan Skillings. Anytime Dan made a shot like late in the game, or you just did, the reaction was just night and day. And it's concerning because you have a guy like Dan who's literally got benched and he's kind of like trying to save his reputation right now of, you know, being the hustle kind of effort guy. And you'd think someone who's kind of in the spotlight like Dan is right now wouldn't really appear as kind of night and day different than him and Rayvon were yesterday. And that was only Rayvon was only out there for 12 minutes.
Coach said he didn't get benched. He just elevated Day-Day, and somebody had to go to the bench. But it was rewarding Day-Day.
I thought Day-Day played noticeably with more effort than Dan. He made some turnovers, but it was literally Day-Day, Aziz, and Rayvon were about the only people on the floor you could see.
Dylan.
Yeah,
Dylan played hard.
Dylan's consistent.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, Chad and Aaron, you know what you're getting out of Dylan game in and game out. So that's to be expected. But no, I agree, Ryan. And Day also decided, hey, I'm going to shoot that thing quite a lot today, because boy, he was firing it up. But
Josh too. Josh Reed.
Right.
Him getting 6 points. That's a big day for him.
You know, it's kind of what you were saying there, Royer. It's like, yeah, Rayvon, when he and also the fan base is just, you know, it's getting toxic and you know, I'm seeing anger, apathy, conversation going up on the board as well. You know, whenever Rayvon checked in, the crowd erupted. Obviously I was just watching it on TV, but you could noticeably hear the crowd cheer when Rayvon checked in. And Chad, yeah. I don't know what that facial expression is. I mean, it's just it's the fact of the matter. I don't know.
Could also be part of like in spite of like everyone else is doing so bad. So it's like, hey, like they finally did something new. Kind of like half like excited, half kind of like F you at the same time type of cheer.
Yeah. Right.
But
exactly.
he's a Cincinnati kid. Mm-hmm. So like it seems to be resonating with him. Like, hey, this is my city. Like I'm getting a chance. I want to go try to make a difference. And it's just kind of sad that it takes a young guy just like 12 minutes out on the court to just really kind of expose exactly everything that what we've been seeing, what people have been complaining about, what former players have been kind of addressing, you know, on Twitter and stuff. So, you know, it is a positive, but it's also like it's enlightening too, to kind of just really show the state of the team and its effort. But, you know, that's maybe he's the kind of guy that can kind of like, that it can be used as exposure to the other guys. Like, hey, look, like this, he wants it this bad, and for some reason you guys don't at all. And you're more talented. Like the potential you have for playing basketball in the future is ahead of him, and you seem to be taking it for granted and taking for granted kind of like what Cincinnati basketball is like formed itself on.
Yeah. But Ricky, this is something that has annoyed me. Like the coaches don't change anything. They changed almost everything in that game. They changed the starting lineup. They changed the starting lineup for the second half. Guys got benched. Like they changed a lot. Like there is this like notion. Okay, well, just play the guys that want to play. Well, yeah. If you do that, you're going to lose by 40, guaranteed. Right. Because the guys that are playing hard aren't the starters for a reason. So, yeah, they're good as a change of pace, but the staff also knows if we want to win, we have got to figure out a way to get the guys at the top of the roster going. But I think we've kind of crossed an inflection point of like, they're not making noise in the Big 12. They're 2-8. Like they're in 15th place. They're not ripping off 10 wins in a row at this point. Like, so you're open to try a little bit more, but also like you still have 200 minutes to fill, and your two shooting guards are injured. You know, you probably, like last year, they loaded up too heavy at the 5. This year, they're probably too heavy at the 4.
Yeah.
And they had a lineup out there yesterday that was Day, Tyler Betsy, Josh Reed, Seamus Lukosius, and Dylan Mitchell. That's a point guard and essentially 4 power forwards of all different shapes and sizes.
Right.
And you're not going to win in this league like that. So I know everybody wants fire and brimstone, but like there has to be a realization that the coaches understand we're trying to balance kicking some of these guys in the rear to get them going, to get them back to the types of players that we saw they can be in this league, while also using the bench to kind of, you know, motivate some of that. But if you left those guys out there in a game against Arizona or Houston or Iowa State, like,
Yeah.
that's not fair to them. Like
It's
you're
not
ultimately
beneficial for both sides. Right.
you're ultimately going to hurt their development because you're asking them to do things that are above their capacity, I guess is a good way to put it.
You have to use them like sparks, kind of like how Rayvon was used. And then you got to
Yeah.
reward Rayvon because I don't think I never felt when he was out there that he was exposing our team in any way. So you should reward him with more until the point where if he either keeps blossoming or if he reaches his kind of like inflection point, you kind of recognize that. But it's using it as motivation for him positively and using it as, you know, a kind of kick in the butt for guys like putting the laser pointer on him in film and saying, look, this is what we're talking about. It's like, you know, Wes was talking about all week how he was on his guys. And he was like, I was trying to be more aggressive. I was trying to be kind of more in their face and kind of like get on their ass about effort and like playing hard. And like, that's what we need to change. And after the game, he was kind of like, well, I don't know if I went about it the right way or whatever. Like it didn't seem to work. It's like, well, I mean, Rayvon kind of gave you a perfect in live example of exactly what the team needed to be doing. And it's like, if you don't want to, if what I'm saying isn't, you're not able to understand and you're not listening to, or you think I'm just beating the drum over and over again, or if I'm, you know, riding these guys' asses too hard, it's like, well, here it is. Do this.
So
if everyone did this, we'd be a lot better off. This type of energy and effort and pride.
And I think you can definitely use Rayvon as an example. I don't think Rayvon is an example, though, as to what he was going to give you because you brought more fire or anger or whatever switch he flipped for this past week. That's just not who Wes Miller is. And some of these guys have been with Wes Miller since he's been here, and they're going to see through that know that it's bullshit. You can't just pretend to be somebody. You've been a player, Ryan. You can't just pretend to be somebody you're not if that's the what you're trying to do to motivate the guys, right?
It'd be like if Fick showed up and was like the chummy, nice guy. Like you guys would see right through that. Like, coach, what the hell are you doing? Cut the act. Like that's not who you are.
There were a couple times when we were struggling our 5th year, and I think Coach Fickle tried to like lighten up the team a little bit, like have us enjoy, you know, like when we'd win, but we wouldn't win by enough. He'd be like, well, you guys won. And he tried to lighten up practices a little bit, make sure like we had fun. And like we're enjoying each other and enjoying the process. And
you guys saw right through it. You didn't change. You guys didn't lighten up. It didn't affect anything. You guys still were tight and just trying to get to the finish line undefeated.
Yeah. It's a very hard dynamic because for us, it was never about like not playing hard. That's more of a fundamental issue. And it's kind of something I brought up before. I was like, you know, we had all this skill, all this like potential talent. And like, if you focus, you know, if you kind of just assume that, oh, since, you know, we're Cincinnati, like we're going to always play hard. And you kind of have guys kind of take it for granted and assume that, you know, they're good enough and their skill and shot making and their isolation offense is going to be good enough to kind of carry us through games and, you know, keep us in games kind of like it did last year. And right when that shit hits the fan, it's like, we really don't have anything to fall back on because we kind of overlooked all the important shit that really made Cincinnati what it was up until now. But yeah, it's a sad state right now, a sad state of the program. But
Really.
I mean,
Good first question, Roy.
yeah. Go ahead.
you want
Roy.
number two?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. You're talking to me or Brent. So how much, like another kind of open debate of like, how much do you think how much can it really fall on like Wes, like him telling the guys like, this is what you have to do. We have to be better, until it starts getting upon the point of like, the players just aren't listening. Like, where do you think it's sitting at right now? Do you think it's like a Coach Wes has to do more, he's not doing enough, or it's, he's doing all he can and it's just the guys just not?
Brent, go ahead. You look like you have thoughts.
Well, I mean, it's just, obviously you're going to take the post-game presser for what it is, and Wes's conversation with Dan and Terry as well for what it is. And when Wes says in the end, it all does fall on him no matter what. But it is puzzling at times to watch the product on the court and just see, you can only fire up players to a certain extent. It just seemed like they were just going through the motions a lot of times. And I don't know if that then does fall on Wes, because, obviously you got to put these players in a position to succeed and put them in a position to have their best effort forward, or else you got to figure out some other way to do it. But I mean, it's very obvious that everyone's struggling to find any answers to any questions. And, confidence is completely gone. And, kind of talking off air, it's just, once confidence is shot, everything is off, and you don't cut back. I mean, that one cut where Day-Day's coming around a screen, it just stops cutting, and the ball is just thrown and picked off. It just small little things that are just simple basketball plays are being hesitant and not being able to be completed. And I think it does fall on Wes, but I think it also falls on every single player that is not going out and just doing just simple tasks that you've always done throughout your basketball life. So I mean, I'm not an expert X's and O guys when it comes to basketball, but I know what I'm seeing out there is just,
yeah. I like how you brought that up on just like the cutting, like on Day-Day for one example. Like I felt like there was multiple times where they were trying to throw in like, different forms of sets to try to get guys moving around on the offensive side of things with like different screens. And you could just tell there was at least one guy who might not have been like, he's kind of like a runoff cut. And like, even that is like, they kind of take two hard steps. It's kind of just like a coast through the lane.
right.
It seems like all five players aren't on the same page of effort ever. It's always like brief effort, like, oh, let's scramble now. Yeah. It's like one guy isn't like, Dan isn't cutting hard enough to the basket in part of the set. And then like next thing we know, there's like 10 seconds on the shot clock. Dylan and Aziz are running up there for some screen action. We're scrambling, and just like nothing seems urgent ever. And they don't seem to realize the urgency has to be every single player, every part of the set, or every rebound, every time on defense. It's like, we just want to try really hard right when we're down by 10. It's like 10 points feels insurmountable. It's like, oh, like now we're going to try to button up really quick on this possession. But it's just like, there's no consistency ever across the board.
It's what we talked about weeks ago when these problems started, is that they look very casual. They don't look like there's any urgency, and that is what is driving the fan base nuts. Like, that's what's impacting everything, is that it doesn't look like it's a connected group. It doesn't look like it's a group that is playing hard for their brothers that are for 40 minutes, like whenever you're out on the court, you're laying it on the line, your attention to detail. Like that's one of the things for me that I have noticed more than anything. It's just the small little attention to detail that, a great example I had, and we can get into this in more detail later, but I had a bunch of people at the game yesterday that were not affiliated with UC basketball that have, NBA scouts and former college coaches. And, just for whatever reason, like there was a group of people I knew at the game yesterday that either that was the first time they have seen UC live, or it was the first time this season they have seen UC live since earlier in the year when they were playing significantly better. And that's a lot of what they talked about. One mentioned the very first play of the game for West Virginia, when Dylan Mitchell's not in a defensive stance, at least not in, an aggressive defensive stance. He gets caught back flat-footed, and a guy just backdoor cuts baseline for a layup. And that's the start of the game. If you're not locked in at the start of the game, Dan Skillings had right after he checked in at 16:25, and then was back on the floor out of the media timeout. And there's a loose ball on the West Virginia side of the court on the left wing, and Dan is within probably 5-6 feet of the ball on the ground. And instead of going for the ball or maintaining position until Cincinnati, because it looked like a ball Cincinnati could get, but instead of maintaining what he was doing or trying to go get the ball, Dan takes off running the other way, like he's leaking out for an easy basket. Well, what happens? West Virginia comes up with the loose ball, and it's 4-on-5, 5-on-4, because Cincinnati's got a guy that's cherry picking, trying to get an easy dunk instead of maintaining his responsibility and staying in that half of the floor so that if West Virginia does come up with the ball, he can recover and be in defensive position, or he can dive for the ball. How many times have we seen a guy that's in the vicinity and the ball gets kicked around, and the secondary guy is the guy that comes up with the loose ball? Dan took himself out of that by just jogging towards the rim. His team didn't have the ball. There wasn't possession Cincinnati where he could have leaked out and maybe gotten an easy score when that's the right play. But instead does the selfish thing, leaves his guys outnumbered, and West Virginia gets an easy basket out of the loose ball that they picked up because they've got a numbers advantage on offense. Like little stuff, Arrington Page throwing that pass one-handed, looping across the lane. Or on the next possession, he posts up, he gets the ball, he takes 2 dribbles. West Virginia shows that the guard is going to dig, okay? And he slow plays it, so then the guard takes 1 step back, but he's still right there in the vicinity. And then Page tries to dribble where the guard is. The guard comes and takes it away. Situational awareness, attention to detail. Like, that's 3 examples in the first 5-6 minutes of the game.
And everyone knew that was going to happen on the AP back down too.
Yes.
Like it's just, it was like, okay, we've seen this over and over again. It happens once every game. Every game that exact play happens.
It happens a lot more than once.
Exactly. It's either a turnover or it's a clank off the backboard. So why do they keep on trying to? It's one of the
another example would be the fast break Dede had, where he just throws it to a Dylan Mitchell who's not looking, as he's also streaking,
and he threw it at his feet. Even if Dylan was looking, he had no chance to catch that ball.
Right. Or also,
you dribble, you fill the middle, you make the defense commit, and then you give it up to Dylan, who's running the wing. It was Jizzle. It wasn't Dede. It was Jizzle.
Sorry.
That's correct.
And also,
but he throws it right at Dylan Mitchell's feet.
Yeah.
A bounce pass at his feet.
Yeah. West Virginia is one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the entire nation. And in the first 8 minutes, there was a play where if you – I'm not suggesting you do this because only crazy people would do this, but if you go back and you watch, some of the game, you'll see this one possession where West Virginia gets a shot at the rim and it misses, and the ball literally bounces it should have been a rebound for Cincinnati and taking
They
it the
don't
other
go
way.
after the ball with two hands, Brent. They don't
No.
they don't secure rebounds.
And then not only did the West Virginia player grab it, there was no one even trying to like contest the shot at the rim that West Virginia had for the putback too. It's so mind-numbingly puzzling how it's just like that's an effort play. And then of course when they get the rebound, it's like body him, like try and stop him from just laying it up and easy. And no one was there to even body him. It just
I don't know how they coach rebounding as much, but it just seems that for some reason our rebounding technique is everyone just jump up in the air no matter like how many guys are in the paint.
Right.
Just jump up and try to grab it. Like, do you know how many times I've seen Dan just go up and try to grab it and he just loses the ball somehow and the other team ends up just scoring it
with two hands. But Ryan,
or someone's got to put a body on, get them the hell, get their guys the hell out of there. Like, if you don't get they're going to have one guy, they're going to have their big in there, like one guy really with a threat of offense rebounding. We don't need Aziz, Dan, and name whoever else in there to all three just go up and stick their hands up. One of you guys just get a damn body in there and box someone the hell out of the paint. And so that way we're not having 3-on-1 and most likely it's us knocking the ball out of each other's hands because it's all just a high point, just catastrophe waiting to happen every time. And I also noticed the past two games, I've never seen, like you mentioned the backdoor cuts, like it's been very obvious the lackadaisical defense. Other team is always cutting harder. They're always backdooring us in droves more than we are on the offensive side. And that, like you're saying, it's kind of like no defensive confidence, no offensive confidence, no defensive urgency, no offensive urgency. And teams that are not as talented as us, so to say, like if you look roster for roster, they're just out-simplifying, outworking us, and we aren't making the effort isn't changing to combat this. Like getting backdoored in basketball is literally the most like, yeah, you aren't giving a shit. You're not paying attention. And it's happening regularly.
For it to happen every once in a while where you're like overplaying the perimeter, like it's a strategic, like you get caught like being a little over aggressive. Like that's going to happen from time to time, but that's not what it is right now. And Ricky, 25, I love you guys, but you got to like, we have a bunch of people in the room. You got to let other people talk. Like it can't just be your stream of consciousness in the chat. You got to, this is a community. You got to like, nobody in a community likes the guy that just doesn't shut up. Like you got to calm down. You got to chill. The rebounding thing, Ryan. Last year, they were 15th in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. They were first in the Big 12. They were better than Houston. Like they were an elite offensive rebounding team last year. This year, they are 15th in the Big 12. And it's the same guys. Like it's the same guys. This is not like they're being taught wrong because we've seen them do it. And I think that's the most frustrating of all of this is we have seen these guys perform at a pretty high level. Like they were super competitive. They won 7 and 11 last year in the Big 12. And they have 5 more games that were down to the wire, decided in the final seconds. Not like it was close with 5 minutes to go and the other team pulled away. Like the game was decided in the final minute, 30 seconds of the game. Like 3
There's
points
only
or less.
one blowout last year. Only one blowout last year.
We have seen these guys perform at this level, and to just have it vanish is shocking because it doesn't make any sense other than the fundamentals that are being taught, that were taught last year, that were taught the year before. Like since Wes has been here, they have not been great on offense. Like let's not kid ourselves. But they have defended, they have rebounded, the effort stuff, like that has never been in question in Wes's first 3 seasons. It wasn't in question in the first 11 games. And now all of a sudden it just is gone. And like the only thing that really, like, confidence, as you talked about, Brent, is a big part of this. But it just feels like the minute that adversity hit,
Yeah, they're out.
they were out. Like they checked out, and they're not playing for each other. You can tell that because stuff like those backdoor cuts, Ryan, that's playing for your brother. That's playing team defense, being on the same page, understanding that you can't just be flat-footed and watch what's happening on the other side of the floor, because your guy is going to see you just standing there, and he's going to cut, and he's going to cut right past your ear. The ball is going to be delivered, and they're going to make a layup. Like, the number of layups and dunks that this team has given up over the past 4 or 5 games is maddening. And it's just complete mental breakdown in their effort, in their toughness, in their ability to stay locked in and stay focused. And that's what kept coming up, talking to NBA scouts, talking to former coaches. It's like they just can't, like, it's like, I know this is going to date me quite a bit, and you're probably, Aaron will probably know a little bit what I'm talking about. But in the old dial radio days, and you would have it dialed into your favorite station, and then it would just kind of fade, and all of a sudden you'd get like increasingly more static. It's like they're dialed in, and it just slides increasingly more static until it's unrecognizable. That dated me big time.
You'd have to adjust the rabbit ears.
Right.
Yeah. Royer's like, what's a radio?
No, you just the offensive rebound thing. What makes it even worse is we're missing an insane amount more shots. So you'd think we'd have way more opportunities to get those offensive rebound numbers up, and just the fact that same guys, and they have more opportunities to rebound the ball on offense because we can't make shit, and the numbers have plummeted. And then you look at I think it's a good polarity of like the amount of times the other team is getting those layups and dunks versus the amount of times we are. Perfect example of lack of intensity on defense and lack of intensity on offense. Like our guys aren't finding a way to make that hard cut and find that extra sliver to get open, where it goes from like having a layup versus like getting cut off or getting a contested layup or The
major problem on offense, Ryan, is they're just cutting into people because nobody has to guard the perimeter because they can't make a shot.
Yeah.
So teams are just standing with 5 guys in and around the lane. Like you saw it probably 10 times against West Virginia. Guy drives down the lane and goes to take a shot, and there's just 3 guys there waiting for him. His defender and 2 help defenders, because nobody has to stay home on the perimeter to respect the shooter. Because they're going to let you shoot it because they don't think you can make a shot. And until you prove them wrong, they're going to keep doing the same thing. And it's just going to keep snowballing. And, the talent level, the length, the athleticism in this league is too good to get by with it.
Yeah. I wonder if we did a true study, it would take go back and watch all the Big 12 games from last year. And I wonder if you could see a little bit of these tendencies showing. It's just the fact that we literally cannot score at all that kind of makes the bad look a hell of a lot worse. I'm not saying we obviously have a problem. Yeah. We definitely have an effort problem. I'm just wondering if you could kind of see these things starting to rear their head last year, kind of just dumb mistakes. I'm just saying, like, it's just insane that you have the same guys that are literally just giving up in all aspects.
Like, and it is insane to see, like, okay, so Jizzle played the least amount of minutes that he's played since the West Virginia game in the Big 12 tournament last year. Yeah. And when he was out there, it just like, and you want to love Jizzle, but man, like that layup that he just, short arm, like a wide open layup at the rim, and he just flat out misses
it. Instead of going up strong, 2 hands, he scooped it underneath the basket.
I mean, 0 of 8 is just like, game in and game out. Like, these shooting stats are just horrible across the board. Like, CMOS is shooting under 40% from the field in Big 12 play. It's just every single player is just completely on their own, and they're all collectively not doing well. Teams take away the oop. You can't run an offense predicated to alley oops against high major teams. It's pretty plain and simple that once that part gets taken away from our team, now we don't really have anyone that can shoot from outside. You take away that, you have no one that can score inside. Take away that. I mean, what is the identity? There's no identity at all. And
Jizzle was our only mid-range creative threat, and we all know what's happening with him on the offensive side, right? So
he can't make a shot. There's nothing, and I just don't see. I don't see any solution, to be honest, unless shots truly start falling and everything opens up a little bit.
But we're past the point. We're 10 games in. They're halfway through the conference schedule.
Exactly.
Like I'm done thinking this team's just gonna.
No, believe me.
And even Brent, we weren't even talking about this team becoming like a 36% 3-point shooting team. But can they get to like 31, 32?
It's incredible. You look at some of the stats and it's mind numbing, and I don't like doing it anymore because like offensively they are in a hole that is just unbelievably low. It's just one of the worst in Power 5 this year by far, and it's not getting any better. I don't know how you fix that.
Look, they are last in offensive efficiency, last in effective field goal percentage, last in free throw attempts compared to field goals, last in 3-point percentage, second to last in 2-point percentage, second to last in free throw or third to last, 14th in 2-point percentage, 14th in free throw percentage, 13 in assists per field goal made. Like, all of it is just a fucking disaster offensively.
Yeah, it is.
Remember when they were second in the country in 3-point shooting defense?
Well, yes.
They're 14th in the conference.
How about earlier in the year when they were number 1 in the country in field goal percentage, offense?
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like 6 games in. I mean, that's when the cupcakes were tasting pretty doggone good, man. That Kool-Aid was going down real smooth.
What was worse, that or the Miami game from 2 years ago?
Football-wise, boy, oh boy, I tell you what. I mean, I still have the Xavier little stat broadcast pulled up on my on one of my tabs because it just makes me happy. It just reminds me of happiness and what it was like. The corner 3 from Jizzle against Dayton this year, boy oh boy, feels like that was 20 years ago. But
yeah,
boy oh boy,
I still think back. I still get smiles. That's all I think about.
Bearcat 101 says he thought he would love to have our job, but he doesn't want to be anywhere near our job now. It's still a great job. We still have a lot of fun with it.
Speaking of
we
things
love our
that feel like
Bearcats.
Speaking of things that feel like they were 20 years ago, Ryan's last question in this new riffing with Ryan feels like it was
23 minutes ago. It's 23 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, Royer, hit us with another question.
I think we literally did everything because I had 3, but we essentially went through that and more. So
you did text me though on Sunday.
Yeah.
During the game. I mean, do you remember what you were asking?
I think you should just take care of it.
Man, you were telling me, hey, brother, hey, my man. I don't even know. Let's be honest. The texts were going, they were going rough, man. But you did say, hey, when things are down, and you know that the Pro Bowl's on, the world infamous, the flag Pro Bowl was taking place. You said, Brent, are you going to tune into that? Are you going to tune in? I said, you know what, Ryan? What is your favorite all-star game or special game that takes place throughout a year? And then I said, whoa, let's save that. Which main sport all-star game, whether it be the entire week, whether it be the weekend, whether it be all the different events leading up to it, is your favorite throughout the entire year? And I said, let's ask the BBP guys, because you know what, the game was rough, but that Pro Bowl was awesome. It was simply awesome. So, guys, what's your favorite All-Star game? Whether it be NBA, whether it be the college 3-point shooting and dunk contest. Aaron, what's yours?
If I had to pick one, because I think they're all a giant waste of time, and at this point in my life, I don't watch any of them. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be the home run derby.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good pick.
I like the baseball all-star game because it's hard to fake baseball. Like, pitchers are still throwing 97. Guys are still in the box trying to get. I mean, yeah, like, in basketball, they don't play a whole lot of defense. It's pretty chill. Like, I always laugh at the people like they don't play defense in the NBA. I'm like, you want to see what not playing defense against the best scorers in the world look like? Watch the All-Star game where they almost hit 200 every year. That's what not playing defense looks like. Because those guys are you just can't play the All-Star game in basketball at a similar facsimile.
Yeah.
Facsimile. I knew it sounded wrong. I just couldn't get it right off my tongue. And football, like, no, it's too fast. It's too physical to really try to play like serious. So baseball's the only one. And even hockey has gotten kind of like NBA All-Star game-ish.
Yeah, they got the Four Nations though this year. That'll be competitive. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a mini Olympic type of thing they're doing. Baseball when they played for the World Series home field advantage, that was pretty cool. But growing up as a kid, I've always gravitated towards the NBA All-Star weekend, like dunk contest, 3-point, and the All-Star game back when I think it was more competitive, probably like 10 years ago. And you had like all like the big name guys. You had like Braun, Melo, Curry, like Dwight Howard jumping over the car, Blake Griffin, all that stuff was cool back then. But I think the most competitive, I definitely agree, was MLB, especially for home field. That was pretty intense.
I've got a buddy who has tweeted a total of, it looks like 7 times. And it's funny because it's the same type of tweet every single year, and it is during the NBA All-Star game. And he just says, "This is the worst All-Star game I've seen in my lifetime." Hashtag NBA All-Star. Dang, missed the NBA All-Star game. Guess I was just too busy doing nothing else. Tonight's NBA All-Star, it's literally every single year. So I look forward to that when it comes to the NBA All-Star game, is to see what my friend Steve is going to put out there on the Twitter sphere. And as it pertains to that game, but I do like. I like the. You remember when when college does the dunk contest and 3-point contest? I love that for some reason, especially when James White was in it at Butler at Hinkle Fieldhouse, just taking off from the free throw line over and over again, just a stud. But I would say NFL's last, because I don't even know what they're even trying to do with this stuff right now. It's very strange. But I do like the NBA All-Star game, but it's kind of weird. So I'll stick with you guys with MLB. I think that's the right answer there. Or the Puppy Bowl that takes during the Super Bowl. That's a fantastic event as well. But that's ripping with Royer, man. That was a lot of fun. Thanks, Brian. You did a great job down there, brother. I know you're off air, but you're here in my heart. Let's go ahead and timestamp this.
That timestamp brought to you by Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company. They provide mostly disposable restaurant supplies, products like to-go containers, cups, pizza boxes, to-go bags, can liners, napkins. They've been open since 2009 and are one of the largest minority-owned companies in the city. For more information, call Nick, 513-470-2029, and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom. Pretty wild. Tomorrow they're doing the Big 12 schedule release, and they're airing it on 20,000 different channels. That's a pretty pretty cool event. So 11 o'clock will be that going on. So that'll be something to watch out for the football schedule being released. We kind of touched on a lot of basketball in that Riffing with Royer segment. So I think we should just hop in the mailbag, because the mailbag has a million questions in the basketball portion. So I figured that'll be a good way to continue the basketball talk. I will have one last thing as Aaron gets the mailbag ready. Is two teams came into the game yesterday riding 3-game losing streaks. You would only see, coming into it, you would only think, whoa, wow, the one team that came out there with their backs up against the wall really shone through, and it was not the home team. It's just another puzzling thing coming at you. 18 losses in the last 4 years at Fifth Third Arena. It's unreasonable in today's day and age in college basketball, and that's with 2 seasons in the AAC. It's a tough pill to swallow, but I'm ready for the mailbag.
We do before that.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some breaking news, Brent.
Oh, okay.
Elder outside linebacker Derek Huron stays home, picks Cincinnati. Was at the junior day on Sunday, and gave his commitment to the staff Sunday afternoon. Got that information as the game was going on, and it was like, hey, hot damn, positive. Something to be happy about. Got a local
kid right in the backyard.
So,
big
get. Wanted to get that out there. I know playing some safety at Moeller. Sounds like they project him to outside linebacker here. Think they can get him up in that 220, 230 range pretty quickly. So
the streets be saying he's a pretty doggone good player. So it's a good get for the Bearcats, especially local.
Keegan will be at a lot of Elder games.
There we go.
This fall.
There we go. There.
Good for him. All right. We will start off.
Is he okay?
Maybe he's getting eggs or whatever. Oh, he changed his shirt.
Whoa, spring break shirt. Let's go.
No, it's the same shirt. I was using the restroom. Sorry.
Roy, what were your spring break destinations? Did you ever go to Daytona Beach?
I went to Fort Lauderdale. I went to Destin. I went to Panama City Beach.
Oh, PCB, baby.
I did a PCB 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
I never did the PCB. I was Daytona Beach a lot, and then did San Diego a lot.
We did, I think it was 96, 97, something like that. MTV Spring Break was there at the same time that we were there. Mm-hmm. And I think it was right after Tupac got killed, and Snoop was there. And literally it was like the fucking president was there. Like they had armed security like everywhere. And then they were staying in a yacht, like out in the ocean that you couldn't even see. They were so far out in international waters. And then they had a boat that would drive them up to the like beach at Club La Vila. And they would get off the boat, go in the back, do their concert, get done straight to the boat, and then back to the middle of the ocean. Because, motherfuckers were getting shot.
Yeah. Be safe out here. Reminds me of during COVID down here in Florida, that all the cruise ships were just out in the middle of the ocean, just sitting there. It's just like, it was
with
wild.
People on them.
Yeah, it's just a wild scenario. But hey, you know what? Here we are. Let's dive in, Aaron. Let's get it rolling, brother.
All right. What a weird conversation to open up the mailbag. All because of Ryan's shirt that he apparently did not switch. I don't even know.
That was the bank's mailbag question, since there wasn't one last I checked.
Yeah, there was not. First question in the mailbag. By the way, with baseball opening back up, we'll start opening up the baseball mailbag as well. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to drop your baseball questions in the baseball mailbag. A few questions to take everyone's minds off basketball.
Thank you.
Coming from the football mailbag. Which of the conference road destinations for 2025 would you most want to travel to for a game? Kansas, Oklahoma State, TCU, and Utah. Would your answer change if the game against Nebraska in Arrowhead was included?
I mean, I don't think I'd ever really have any desire to go to Nebraska, even though I'm sure it's a great scene, college town, stadium, etc., etc.
Well, it's not in Nebraska, though. It's in Kansas City.
He said if the game wasn't in Kansas City, if it was in Nebraska, would that change your answer? I don't think it would change my answer because I don't think I would care to go to Nebraska.
No, they're just saying, would your answer change if the game against Nebraska in Arrowhead was included?
Oh, I thought even if it was like in
no, because it's technically not an away game as it's a
right.
I mean, Kansas City's okay. Joe's Barbecue's great. But there are dispensaries in Ohio now, so that kind of takes out one of the main reasons I would go to Kansas City prior to that.
Right.
I'd
probably say TCU or Oklahoma State. I mean,
yeah, Fort Worth is a cool town. I've heard a lot of good things about Oklahoma State's campus, just the vibe, the atmosphere. It would be one of those two. The child would pick TCU, so that's probably where I would end up, just because there's in and out in Texas. So
there we go.
If I go to any away game, it'll probably be Nebraska in Arrowhead. So I'd pick that one.
Amen.
I second you, Aaron.
What matchup, a la Alec versus Sauce in 2021, or positional battle are you most looking forward to watching this offseason?
No fucking idea. I gotta learn the roster first. I need about 3 or 4 spring practices under my belt, and then I can let you know. The thing about Sauce and AP was that had been building for 3 years, right? We had watched those guys go one-on-one as it was like becoming a thing, or like James Hudson and Myjay. Like those were stars that we knew. I mean, I guess what Dante and Gerhardt, but we've seen that one a bunch of times already.
I'm excited to see Gavin just level up. Just obviously, we know he's a leader and we know that he's a captain, but like his play, like let's see him take that one massive leap in his final season. And obviously, going up against Dante every daggone practice is a good way to do that. So I think I'd be there with that one because, like you said, like I mean the football team posts all those pictures and videos and whatnot. Now I got to pull up the roster real fast, and I'm like, all right, who are these guys?
It's gonna take me the first 3 practices just to like get my bearings.
Yeah,
and just to like see a guy run by and under like in my brain for it to click and go, that's so and so, that's so and so. Then you added you 27 new players or whatever it is. Right. Then you added number changes because there's always like 8 to 10 number changes where you're looking for a guy that used to be number 17 and now he's number 4.
Right.
And you're like, I don't see him. Is he out? Where is he? Oh yeah, he's number 4 now. So like it takes a little while. And that's one of the crappy side effects of the transfer portal. And all the turnover that we're getting now it's hard to get into that rhythm of like knowing I'm excited to see this coming into the spring. Now I'm excited to get the roster in my hand and start matching players with jersey numbers and figuring out who the hell is who. It's hard.
The good news is NCAA football 26 should also help with that once that game drops.
Oh, there we go.
Just saying. And number 3, which former Bearcat that did not play in a BCS/New Year's Six Bowl would you add to the team next year?
Huh. Well,
I mean, that
technically, Sauce from his sophomore season? No, from his freshman
but he
season?
eventually played in a BCS.
I
That's
know,
what they're
I know,
asking. Like, they
I
don't
know.
have that on their resume.
Okay. Chris Moore?
Chris Moore. That's exactly where I was going. Chris Moore. Give me Chris Moore on this team. I'll feel a lot better going into to opening day.
How the hell is he still in the NFL?
Right? Look,
Wild.
he's what we always, if you do things the right way, you work your ass off, you find a role, you excel in that role, you can stick around, make a whole lot of money.
Mhm.
That guy's going to be able to buy a Skyline Chili franchise when he gets done.
Wild.
I said it.
Mike Warren, because his last season was
Yeah. I'll take the truck. I'll take the truck.
Oh
Yeah.
man, let me think.
Can't do yourself, Ryan. Sorry, because you.
Wasn't on
Dino Boyd.
BCS. It would have to be someone 2019 that's older.
Was
Shit,
Haruki 2008 or was he 2007?
I think Haruki would have played in the.
Did he play in the Orange Bowl or was he
I
a
think
year
he
before?
would have been in the. I think he would have been in the Orange Bowl because wasn't Mickens on that team still too? No, I think Haruki falls in line.
I just couldn't remember if he was 08 or if he was 07. I know he was one of the two. I just don't remember which.
Give me Perry Young.
Travis Kelce actually was on the Sugar Bowl team.
Yep.
He was inactive that day.
He was hanging out with B Young on Bourbon Street.
The
And
question
Jason
is,
played.
which former Bearcat that did not play in a BCS / New Year's Six
Yeah,
bowl?
I guess Travis would count. He played on that 2009 team.
Right.
He was just not available for the Sugar Sugar Bowl.
But we've got Travis Kelce at home, so Joe Royer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like this answer. Give me another season of Luke Kandra. Let's go.
lock in Leroy.
Although you might need a tackle more than you need another guard. Just saying.
Yeah.
All right. That is the football portion of the mailbag. Moving on to the basketball portion of the mailbag.
Thank you for that, Turner.
My
2024.
goodness, folks.
We don't have to do them all, Aaron.
How many are there?
I understand.
30, I think.
Well,
Are you shitting me?
it's a lot. Let's see where we want to start. I guess we can start here and then I can read through. What's the optimistic case for giving Wes a year 5? You can no longer point to building this program the right way. Given the effort / toughness we have seen, the offense is actually rated worse in year 4 than it was in year 1. Is the answer simply to save money? I don't know what you can point to and say Wes deserves it.
So I know everybody's mad. You got something, Brent?
No, I mean, right now in college basketball, you can do a complete reset and have a successful season. Now, with the current situation going on and whether it is, the lack of effort pertaining to the coaching staff not being able to fire up the team or what that little side points to is still up in the air and questions need to be answered from that front. But in the current landscape of college basketball, you can have a complete reset. You can be Mizzou. You can be certain teams that have a bad season and then the very next year can revamp the entire roster and come out and surprise people. So that would be the only thing that I have to say when it comes to just it is possible to revamp a roster in one off season and see where the chips fall.
I'll also say this, and I know this is nobody wants to hear this right now because everybody's frustrated and pissed off, and for whatever reason, it's not getting through. I've had enough, guys. I can't do it anymore.
Idiotic take, Brent. Horrible.
I can't do it. I just can't. There's 3 years of evidence that Wes was growing the program. And there's 2 months of evidence at the start of the season that Wes was growing the program. There have been 5 dreadful weeks. And there is no mistaking that. But I'm not exactly ready to just throw out the baby with the bathwater at the first sign of adversity. For whatever reason, it's not working with this group. And there's a million look, I talked to probably 10 people today. Everybody had a different theory. Everybody had a different, I think this is people outside the program, people inside the program. I have a different theory as to, but it's all just theories as to what has happened. So I do think, given that there was an upward trajectory, that another year is within reason. If they fired him, but they don't have $13 million. They don't have $10 million to fire him. So it's not going to happen. But if they did, I wouldn't be up in arms over it. But I'm also not the type that just at the first sign of adversity jumps ship. So I'm willing. And the problem is, Aaron, I know you're looking at me funny. The problem is I don't see any reason to believe it's going to get better over the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And that's what is the bottom? What does bottoming out look like for this group? 3-17, 4-16, that's tough to swallow because there's too much talent on this roster to be that bad. So, I'm not willing to just say there was a bad, one at the first sign of instability, everybody's got to go. That's not who I am. You guys know that. That's never been who I am. But, the way that they're playing, the way that they're responding to adversity is troubling because it's the coach's job to get them through it.
I'd agree.
I think that my expectations for Wes is that a slide like this wouldn't have happened. And I agreed with you, Chad, about the trajectory and definitely fell. I think the expectations this year were warranted going in, the roster he put together, and just the lack of I had Wes Miller being one of the best up and coming coaches, and this was the year for him to really cement that. And I think his lack of ability to kind of right the ship in terms of within a game and, within this 5-week stretch has kind of exposed some maybe exposed some of his flaws as a coach. But I don't think those flaws are insurmountable. And I think however this season goes, the next 5 weeks, you said, Chad, it could absolutely implode and we can end up with a record like you mentioned. But I still think that, he will learn from it and he will be better for it next year. And it just I think it gives him an opportunity next year to kind of really, he's really on the chopping block next year. It's tournament or bust next year. But, I agree that I think a year 5 is something that he's earned. And for some reason, this team has just kind of started to give up on itself. I think as a coach, there's only so much you can do, no matter how good of a coach you are, no how much of a good motivator you are. Sometimes, you see it across football. see it across basketball, but I don't think this is, no matter how bad it gets this year, I don't think it'll be bad enough for him to not deserve one more year next year. But next year it definitely is tournament or you're gone. And I would hate to see that because I think he is a talented, young, talented coach, and he knows the right things and knows how to win. It's just, for some reason, it's not working right now.
Oh, you also have the problem of.
Go ahead.
You also have the problem of you've put Satterfield on the same hot seat. Now you're putting Wes Miller on that hot seat. Do you really have the money for all the buyouts? And if you're firing the football coach and the basketball coach, can you actually keep the AD
and the president,
like,
and the board of trustees, the tenured professor in the science department,
everyone,
the dean of students, because the student section isn't good enough. Everybody, fire them all, get them out of here.
All right. Ryan, hopefully you're still there. This one's for you. How can the winning culture be restored with this basketball program? Recent example, Fickle did a great job with that. It seems that Wes has tried to force the tradition and standard of UC basketball on his teams, bringing in alum, etc., and it seems to be going in the negative direction. What's next? Would love Ryan's opinion as a former player.
As a player, I don't think that stuff is. It's all about buying into the little things, the little details, and kind of having a foundation built upon of effort. And I think when you open the doors up and you want people to be a part of it, it makes it feel more, it makes it feel more like a community. But I think that's better for people on the outside. Like on the inside, like you need a team that's like solely focused on their culture, solely focused on the betterment of themselves. And really that stuff is all kind of like window dressing for the program, like for the guys that are currently playing. Like it feels nice, it looks nice, but I don't think that's like that. I don't think it will be. And I don't think it should be kind of like shifting, kind of like, oh, like now I'm going to play harder. Or I'm going to like figure out a little bit of way. Cause like, coaches bringing all these guys back. I think that's something that just has to be ingrained within your team, ingrained within your culture. And that's something where after you experience it and go through it, then you're happy that that opportunity is there for you. And it overall makes the program better. But, when Coach Fickle was there, like we weren't like looking around at like the people showing up to practice and like, oh, that so-and-so's here. Like now I really want to try harder and be better. And it's kind of like you kind of have to have that regardless. But
here's what I think is important, Ryan. I know when you go back to Mick's first 4 years and they couldn't get over the hump, they couldn't. Either it was the non-conference did them in, or it was a slide in February at the end of the season that did them in. There was always something, right? And then that first team made the tournament in his 5th year. And then from then on, to a man, you would talk to the veterans on the next team. And they would be like, we can't be the team that erased the hard work. And you guys had something similar. 4-8 Tuberville's last year. There were a bunch of guys on that roster, the 4-8 year, Fickle's first year. Then you turn the corner, double-digit wins in 18. Was there a sense of, look, we're not going back there? Like, we've seen what that is like. We're not going to be the group of older guys that let this backslide into what it was. We've got to keep pushing forward, because I think that was prominent through Mick's tenure. Is the senior guys, the veteran guys, always held those younger guys to that standard of, we're not going backwards. We're a team that makes the tournament every year. We're a team that, competes for conference championships. We're a team that plays near the top of our league. And until Mick left, that tradition carried on. And even the first year after he left with Trey Scott and Jaron and those guys still on the team, they were in position to be a 1 seed in the American Athletic Conference tournament going into, the COVID tournament that got canceled. But like, I think right now this team lacks that.
Yes.
They lack that veteran leadership that says, not on our watch. We're not going to be the guys that short the tradition that was built when we were young and the older guys passed that down to us. I don't think there was anything passed down from the last group to this group.
Yeah, and these guys haven't been there to like know what it takes. And that's something I kind of wanted to touch on. You look across our roster, like our players that we want to rely heavily on, they're either young or like Dan, he's barely
They're
played
old
basketball.
and they haven't won anything.
Yeah. Or there are guys that they're transfers. And then you have like the Rayvon Griffith come in, he's a sophomore. He doesn't know, he shouldn't really know shit about, playing hard and what it's like to be, a Bearcat, but he's a guy who's from Cincinnati. He knows, he's grew up watching it. He knows what he should be representing and what it, the type of energy and effort played on both sides of the ball. But yeah, this team lacks like a leader that's like been there and like kind of been born in the fire of wearing the Seapaw and suffered and kind of rose through it and grinded themselves to being a champion and to bettering the program. And like, that's what with football, like we got there, the program was literally in the dumps. And then our first year, we didn't do anything to it, but like behind the scenes, dude, we were suffering, we were grinding, we were, pouring everything we had into it. And we knew once we had that first off season, like after the first year, it was like, all right, like this is ours now. And like, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to go leaps and bounds further than, we thought we could in terms of just overall the amount of time we put in the off season, whether it be spring ball, we were out there for damn near 3.5 hours. It was just unheard of. We had to take, all the extra steps to learn how to win and to deserve to win. And then once you felt that, it was, well, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to being 3-9. I'm never going back to being 4 straight losses in Big 12 basketball play. It's just like these guys don't know. They haven't forced them. They haven't put in the effort to force themselves out of it yet. And they haven't tasted the taste of like victory and knowing what it took to get there. And you don't have any guys on the basketball team that have done that, grinded through it, suffered through it. I mean, you read those tweets. Yeah. And then some of our best players they're a transfer or they're guys that, they don't really know what it's like to grow and succeed and be at the top as a Bearcat. So it's got to start somewhere, though. That's the thing. It had to, like football, we literally sucked dick with Tuberville. We were terrible with Fickle our first year. We were such a bad football team. Should have won like 1 game. But it was a conscientious effort to better ourselves in every aspect and then to just take a step further from that every year. So it's not an easy process, but once if you build it on the right things, if the foundation is built strong and built correctly, then it will trend.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast, but
then you start to learn some high-level players too.
Ryan wasn't here for attention training, and it wasn't in the spring. That was like January, the week 2 weeks after Luke took over. Like the first thing they did in January was attention training, and that was all the old Tuberville guys. There were no new guys that were here yet at that point in time. That was all the old guys to show them the status quo was not acceptable here anymore.
It was just it was a litmus test. It's like, let's get anyone out that isn't ready for our shit.
Right.
Yeah. But
a lot of people think you guys were all part of that. You weren't.
No.
That was a 1 year, one-time thing.
Yeah. But we like Matt Drills would be a good example of that. What we did in every winter. But for
But you
sure,
weren't planking in the ice.
no. But that first spring ball, after Fickle's first year, like that was like a significant like line in the sand of like, you guys aren't good at football. You don't know enough. You're not tough enough, and we're gonna break you. Like we would have hour-long pre-practice straight into 2 hour practice, and then 30-minute like post-practice like
Right.
format. It was ridiculous. It was insane. Like everyone hated football all spring long, but you saw what happened to us. We got so much better, but maybe there needs to be some sort of, similar type of reset for basketball going into this next season.
If anybody's back.
Hey, got to start somewhere.
Which brings us to our next question. If Wes is coaching here next year and the team has any chance of success, how many portal starters do you see? 2? 3?
I mean, I would need to see a little bit more of
Abayev will probably start.
maybe. There's going to be a significant, if this continues and this is like 4-16 or 5-15, and it looks like it's going to. Like, I'm not saying that it's not going to, and they're going to turn it around. I'm past that point. If this continues, this roster is going to look drastically different a year from now. Not only because, one, they're going to tell guys to leave, but two, there are going to be guys that decide to go do this somewhere else, even if they wanted them back. I mean, right now, I'm preparing for a very, very different looking Cincinnati Bearcats roster in 25-26. Maybe it'll change. Maybe my opinion will change as that we are at a point right now where there's not a lot of information. The information that out there is obviously negative, because that's the vibe. Everything right now is pretty negative. And that's going to carry over into the rumors that are swirling and the people that usually know things, but right now they're speculating because we're still a long way from any of those decisions being made.
Mm-hmm.
But on this current path, 3 at least.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
I say greater than or equal to 4.
That's just insane to even think about.
Yeah.
I guess we'll really see what Wes is made of next year.
Yeah. Well,
because it's gonna have to be built on brand new shit again.
Unless there's a come to Jesus moment this year, it's
yeah. Thank you, Top G's. Funny how the same fans who want Wes fired are the same ones who didn't want Mick here to begin with. Now those same people think Mick was the best thing since sliced bread, and there was never any difficult times getting to year 5, which was the first year that Mick made the tournament, which was his 4th year in the Big East. And this is only Wes's 2nd year in the Big 12, learning the conference. But at least you keep it fair, and that's why I keep listening. We work very hard at that, Top G, and I appreciate that. Like, we talk about, we're not going to lose our shit and everybody's got to be fired. We're going to be angry. I think Aaron and I have been appropriately angry over the last 4 games in the aftermath. There's not been a lot of pulling punches. There's been holding guys accountable that we think need to be held accountable, including Wes, and saying that he has to do better. And these are his guys. He brought them in. Like, ultimately, the buck stops with him. But we're also going to be fair, and we're not going to act like idiots and embarrass ourselves just to get the hot take out there. Like, let everybody else be Chris Canny, because Chris Canny fucking sucks. So if that's the guy you want to be in how you present yourself, have fun with that. It's not going to be us.
This made me think, why don't we replace this with a couple of mailbag questions? I should have put this into our riffing with Royer. How do you think the team is sitting right now if you take Mick Cronin and put his start at the same time as Wes Miller's start? Do you think the team is any further along?
Well, are we dealing with like Mick Cronin coming from Murray State, or are we dealing with Mick Cronin that's got 15, 17
Coming-
years of
Coming from Murray
high-level
State,
coaching experience.
I think it's kind of a
It-
similar transition from
It would have
West.
taken him a while. It
You
would have
think he'd
taken him a
be?
while.
You
It
think
took
he'd
him a
be
while
hitting
then.
the? Yeah, I was just, do you think his type of culture, his type of attitude would translate better in this Big 12 landscape than West's kind of?
It would
Aaron?
depend, because is he going into these gyms that have 4-star and 5-star players, or is he avoiding those gyms with the Big 12 hanging on?
Well,
in
he
the
never
rafters?
avoided those gyms in the Big East. He avoided those gyms in the American because you can't get those guys to the American unless you were going to do things that were not within the rules to get those players to play in the American.
But now
Like,
they're
I
in the
think
rules.
now they're
The rules
now
are
they're
there are
now
no
it's
rules.
allowed. Right. But Mick had to figure it out in the Big East. He had to figure out what worked and what didn't, and how to put a team together and how to build a roster. And it was a learning experience.
He's also had some really hard times already at UCLA. Like, it's not been all sunshine and fucking rainbows.
No, once he had to start actually building his roster, because the roster he got when he got there was his roster for 3 years. Like, there was almost no turnover. Tiger Campbell and Jaime Jaquez, and like those guys all stuck around for a long time. And then when he had to rebuild it, it hasn't been easy. He went all freshmen last year. That didn't work great. He went, mostly veterans this year. He had to completely flip out and lose his shit to get those guys back on track this year. Like, I said this a million times, and at some point in time, people are going to listen to me. Winning at this level is really, really fucking hard. And until you do it and establish that you're a winner, it is like, that's why you've seen programs like St. John's and Georgetown and Seton Hall. And, I'm picking on the Big East a little bit here, but these programs that have these storied traditions, DePaul, that have failed to come back up, because it's really hard to get over that hump. Once you get over that hump, if you've got continuity, then you can sustain it. But getting there, picking yourself back up from a rebuild and getting back over the hump is not easy.
No.
Sorry to
DePaul.
hijack your mailbag. I thought it'd be a good
You're good.
debate. Save some of the not productive questions in there.
Given the top 3 NIL recipients, Dan, Seamoth, Gisler, are the most serious underperformers, is it fair to say NIL has played a role in this team's demise?
It's fair to say, Killer B, you are obsessed with NIL, and get your hands out of their pockets, bro. But I'm sure it's part of it, but like, I refuse to believe that it's just as simple as they're making money and now they don't care, because everybody across the country, everybody in the top 10, like half of the Big 12 has got a $8 million plus roster. And those guys aren't falling off a cliff because they're making some money.
Right.
So I refuse to believe like that Cincinnati's just got a situation where all of a sudden NIL ruined everything, but it's not ruining everything for most everybody else in the same space.
Seamoth is a coach's kid. You think money changes the fact that he's a coach's? He still has to talk to his dad about his game. Like, we've all had to had those hard conversations with our dads.
This was dad's in the Football Hall of Fame. Like,
yeah,
I don't, individually, could there be a case here and a case there where a guy that isn't used to having money gets money and it changes who he is? Sure, that's human nature. That happens. Why do you think, like, in the history of lottery winners, like almost all of them blow all their money? Because they weren't rich and then they got rich and then they made bad decisions and then they were broke. Like, sure, that can happen. But it's not something that is like, none of these Cincinnati guys can handle having a little change in their pocket, and that's ruined the season.
Right. Everyone's
think
getting
that's
paid. Yeah.
over under on 4 total conference wins.
You've got Utah and Oklahoma State at home, but you've been more likely to win on the road than you've been to win at home.
Well, no, they're at OK State.
Oh, they're at OK State. Well, maybe they win that one because it's on
They
the road.
They get K State at home.
Yeah, that's right. K State and Utah at home. I'll go 5.
And TCU
I don't feel great.
at home as well.
I don't feel great about it, but I'll go 5.
Yeah, I'll take the over as well. Just because I'm an idiot. But yeah, I'll take the over.
I can't believe
Aaron thinks 1 and 9.
I can't believe Ken Palm has them at 6.
Yeah.
All right. Chad and Aaron have talked recently about playing the guys that play hard. Seems like a no-brainer, and seems like Wes should have been doing this weeks ago. Any idea on why he has been reluctant to do so?
He hasn't been reluctant to do so. Like, he's been reluctant to the extreme that some people wanted. Josh Reed came in and gave good minutes, and they increased his time on the floor. Like, that's been rewarded. I think the Ray thing is very similar to what we've talked about, in that for all the way up until like the last 3 or 4 games, the defense and rebounding had held. And that's where Ray really can impact the game is effort and hustle and rebounding. Like, that had held. And then the past 3 or 4 games, that's kind of fallen off a cliff. So now it makes sense to get a guy like Ray in there. But here's the problem that I want to ask everybody this legitimately. Okay? I've seen people say, just play Day-Day, Ray, Tyler, Dylan, and Josh. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, they will not play within 20 points of another team on this schedule. If that is those are the 5 guys getting the majority of the minutes. They will not play within 20 of another team the rest of the way. Yeah. Are you okay with that? Because the coaching staff's not. They're still trying to win games. Yes, they're trying to teach lessons. Yes, they're trying to, adjust minutes and move things around accordingly. But the reality is, the only way that this gets back on, even remotely back on track, is if Jizzle and Dan and Seamus start playing like we've seen them play in the past. So I know, and then that's compounded by the fact that CJ and
Hickman
Connor are out. So now you don't have any guards. You have 4 guards. 2 of them are out and 2 of them aren't playing well. And then Dan, who's kind of a guard wing. He's played the 2. So he's played shooting guard. He's more of a wing, but he's playing the shooting guard position. And that throws everything off. If you play that lineup, you're playing a point guard with 4 fours who are all offensively challenged.
Right.
You think the 50s are bad? Put that group out there against a competent Big 12 defense for 27 minutes a game.
Yeah, Houston and Iowa State on the schedule coming up.
Yeah. So, I think there needs to be some realism in the fact that, guess what? These guys are still coaching to win games. Like, as frustrated as we get, those guys that have done it in the Big 12 before, they're not doing it this year, but that have done it in the Big 12 before, present you your best opportunity if you can get them back on track. Now, am I all for maybe giving an extra rotation to Ray? He played, 12 minutes? Getting Ray up to 15? I'm okay with that. Getting Josh up to 15, 17 minutes? I'm okay with that. I'd like to see a little bit more of Tyler Betsy. Especially now that it looks like his shot is coming back and he's in a little bit better rhythm there. But if you're trying to win games, if the object is still to win games, you got 10 games left in this league, you have to play those guys because they give you your only chance to win.
Yep. If
you're okay with saying, I don't care if they lose by 30, I just want the guys to play hard, that's fine. I understand that sentiment. As long as you're understanding that team has no shot to win games in this league. No shot.
The final score against UCF might be 120 to 35. Just saying. I like this question a lot. In an alternate universe, after a brawl in the crosstown shootout, which saw Aziz Bendago lay out Zach Fremantle with a beautiful haymaker, Coach Miller suspended Aziz, Page, and Halvin Zella for 6 games each. What impact did playing small have in that universe? And did the fight, suspensions, and need to band together to play small actually unlock this team's attitude and potential? We don't even have to answer it. I just wanted to read it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not really a question.
I mean, that team lost.
Who's Jaquan Parker?
That team lost to Presbyterian.
Yeah,
they lost to a religion.
They did. Who's Jaquan Parker? Because that's what made that team go.
As a media member, do you change your approach to press conferences with how bad it's gotten?
No. I find things that are interesting in my brain and I ask questions about them. I find things that I want answers to and I ask the coach questions about it. And I come up with ways that I think the coach will answer said questions. Because there are ways you can ask a question, the same question. You can word it one way and the coach is going to shut you down and not give you an answer. Or you can take the same question, kind of workshop it and figure out how to get the wording right and get an actual response that's not combative. So no, my approach doesn't really change at all. I just try to come up with stuff I think that's interesting that people want to hear the answer to, and I ask it.
I just come up with a question. If I actually have a question, I will ask a question in the football pressers. But I don't waste a question because I feel like I need to ask a question.
Yeah. There are times I ask a bunch of questions. There are times I only have a couple that I think are good. So I ask those couple and I go about my day.
I don't recall Brent ever asking a question.
I enjoy a podcast setting when talking to coaches. If you can't tell, I don't need to budge in a question to let people know I'm there.
Worst year on the boards. What a question. Play on words. Dan Skillings or Killer V?
Oh boy, I love Killer V. I wish he would take it down to about a 7. He's at like a 14 right now. The speakers are blown. Like the highs and the lows are like distorted. But he's passionate and he cares. I just think he gets a little deep in the weeds on a topic that he just can't. You got to be able to have a breadth of topics. Not, it was Day and Jizzle for the longest time. Now it's NIL. You got to mix it up a little, Killer V. Other than that, I love it. Dan, yeah, Dan's having a worse year on the boards.
It's been really bad.
Look, Killer V gives great effort on the boards.
Right,
his effort's
there.
Effort's off the charts,
and he's consistent too.
Oh yeah, every day he's showing up.
Yeah.
He's doing the work. He's getting the fingers out. He's hitting the keys. He's in the lab. He's in there late at night. He's back early in the morning. Like you can't disrespect the hustle from Killer V. We can with the other guy right now. Leave it at that.
All right. Well, speaking of Killer V, given the NIT requires a minimum 500 record to play, will the Bearcats get the 4 wins required to get to 16 and 15? Then will they be selected given much of that NIT field of 32 has 20 plus wins?
So I don't think there is a 500 requirement anymore. I think that is gone. That used to be a requirement. I think that's out. And you can be under 500. I think they get to 15. So I'll go 15 and 16. I don't think that they will be selected to the NIT field of 32, even though the 20 plus wins thing really doesn't matter because a lot of those teams are low major teams that
get the NIT talk out of here.
Yeah.
Not going to be.
We don't talk about that.
The not in tournament. Come on, get out of here.
It's an interesting conversation in terms of like if you are turning over your roster, you don't have time to play in the NIT.
No.
You don't have time to waste. You get
These
into
guys
your
don't
meetings.
want to play in the NIT.
They don't want to play Wednesday.
No. Crazy idea, I know, but in a perfect world, if we could move Wes into a general manager role in charge of recruiting, budget, portal recruitment, and
Stop
scouting,
it.
and hire another head
Stop it.
coach,
Just
we
stop
would
it.
save on the buyout of Wes and
Just
still
stop it.
have him involved in the program. Ever been done?
No. Stop.
Oh, that's almost as funny as the suggestion I saw that Wes hires what was it, Bob
Hugs.
Huggins
Yeah.
and Roy Williams and Nick Van Exel and Sean
I
Kilpatrick
saw
as
that.
his
The
staff.
Avengers.
Wow. All
What are we
right,
doing?
now we're talking.
Mm.
Be a heck of a movie. All right.
3 of those dudes laugh you off the phone.
4.
Oh, SK takes it. Would you say the anecdotes about players working out during the summer in places like Houston was somewhat of a signal that they were not team players and more focused on themselves and not creating a team?
No, because that was their time off. They were away from campus. They were like, when Jizzle did that, the team was gone. There was nobody in town. So he went and worked with his trainer that used to be in Florida, that he worked out when he was younger in Florida. Now that guy lives in Houston. So when Jizzle goes to work out with his trainer, he goes to Houston because that's where he's centered. That's where he's based out of now. So if guys are doing that when they're supposed to be here, yeah, you've got something. But to Jizzle's credit, he was away from basketball and was still working hard in the gym, which is all I've ever heard about Jizzle, which makes him falling as far as he has fallen this year not make any sense to me because I know the kid put in the work. Like when he's off from basketball at Cincinnati, he's always somewhere else working on basketball. That's exactly what you want. That's what makes out of all of it. That's what makes his the most confusing is that he did the work and he's not getting the results, which is super frustrating.
And the last question in the
And
basketball
that's how
portion.
that's how you get muted. Stuff like that.
Last question in the basketball portion of the mailbag. So much going around about buyouts. Can the school actually tap into the general fund for payouts? I thought that was a no-no.
No, to my knowledge, absolutely not. And that's what everyone would do. Instead, what do you hear when a coach gets fired with a heavy buyout? They've gone to XYZ Booster, and XYZ Booster has put up the money for the buyout. You can't the general fund and like the endowment, like that stuff's all earmarked. Like it's all designed to go somewhere. There's not just like $30 million laying around in the general fund for fuck it, it's Tuesday. Like it's not how budgets in anything work. Oh, it's Tuesday. I'm feeling kind of frisky. Let's check into the fuck it, it's Tuesday fund. How much we got in there? Like, no, they don't. I don't think you can do that. I don't think. I would be shocked if you could, because it's not something we've heard before. Brandon, have you ever heard that before? They just dipped into the general fund to fire a coach.
Tuesday. No,
Fuck it, it's
no,
Tuesday.
it's
Tuesday fund.
It is a gift from a donor to pay buyouts.
You also have to then
Or
double
it comes out
back
of the
because you have
athletic budget.
Right.
you still have to hire somebody else after
Yes,
the buyout.
And pay their buyout, and then
at the other school.
yeah, it's
It's a very expensive process. What's Keegan's buyout? Got to fire somebody.
That's the mailbag. Get us out of here, Brent.
well, you know what, guys? We had Jordan Bishop on the show earlier.
Thank
He's
God.
great. He is sleeping like a baby right now.
Oh yeah. He is the man. That's excitement brewing there. Baseball is back. There is a basketball game on Wednesday. It is at UCF. It is at 7 p.m. and it is a basketball game. A chance for the Bearcats to win one. Jizzle James' dad most likely will be there, and Jizzle James' fake dad that was at the last game might be there too. So who knows? Either or, a chance to get back on the winning side of things. So shouts to Jordan Bishel. Shouts to
How
everyone.
about this, Brent?
Yeah.
14:50 left in the second half. Kansas 43, Iowa State 25.
Hey, we might be getting Iowa State at the right time after they lost to Kansas State over the weekend, and out of this, wow. I tell you what, the Caleb Love hangover effect is hitting the Cyclones hard. But you know what? Also, there's a Super Bowl on Sunday. So shouts to former Bearcats Brian Cook and Travis Kelce yet again, trying to go out there and win another one. So stay locked into that. But of course, shouts to Bishop, shouts to Danco Transition Out of Here, shouts to Quick Paper Supply, shouts to New Riff. Riffing with Royer was amazing today. Ryan did such a great job. He is my best buddy and the greatest man in the world. But for my broadcast partners, my pals, the crew, the squad, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, Ryan Royer, I am Brett Young. Yet again, another fantastic BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!